Good afternoon, and I am your host and host, Prabjot Kaur. And of course, you know me by the stage name Snehavi Singh as well. Well, a very, very warm welcome to amazing and yet another very interesting book reading session. After a very successful first and second editions, which you might have seen in more than 101 1,800 countries and also entries across five award categories, immersive multi city book reading sessions, and more than 30 eminent personalities getting associated in the awards journey. JK Papers and the Times of India proudly presents the third edition of Auth Her Awards. And as you all know, that Author Awards is a celebration of the art of a storytelling from the women's perspective. So, as a part of our journey to celebrate women's author, please join me in welcoming Anmol Malik. Maybe have a round of applause here. The virtual clap should show. And of course, while Anmol might not need any introduction at all, having sung so many songs and that have gone on to become like the must haves at the most parties over the years, and she's also a brilliant composer. Anmol Malik has studied her creative writing from the University of Warwick, England. And let me share that after working at Leo Burnett at UTV Disney, she went on to look after the scripts department of the Yash Raj films. Oh my God, that's actually like a dream come true. So,
It is.
ladies and gentlemen, a very, very, very warm welcome to Anmol. So, maybe have again a round of applause, and you can also show your love through these emoticons in the chat box. So, welcome, Anmol.
Thank you so much for having me here and for that fabulous introduction. Um, I have to say that those are some very kind words. And I'm very excited now because I'm here today to do a book reading from my latest release. It's called A Plain Story. And it's a superbly funny book. So, after that very generous introduction, I can't wait to dive into reading some bits from here for you.
Thank you. And we are really glad, Anmol, that your book, A Plain Story, has generated rave reviews all across different platforms. Can you please tell us more about it? We are so excited to know.
I'm actually very excited to present this book because my debut book, Three Impossible Wishes, and A Plain Story, both of them have been published by HarperCollins. And I have this habit of always wanting to write books that are based in real events and they have a fictional story. So, a Plain Story is actually set in a very real event that occurred in 2010. In 2010, there was this volcanic eruption that resulted in air traffic being disrupted worldwide. I don't know if many people recall this, but
Yeah.
thousands of passengers were stuck on airports all over the world. And that resulted in huge financial and medical repercussions. Um, in that, I have decided to set a very masala Bollywood story of this boy. His name is Dev, and there's a girl, Tara. And they don't know each other, but they're on the same Mumbai to Paris flight because they want to go to a wedding that's happening in Paris. His ex girlfriend is getting married to her ex boyfriend, and they want to go and break that wedding. And it's from this very simple story that a lot of drama unfolds, and you get to see a lot of the world around these two people when they start realizing that there's a lot the world has more than just two broken hearts. So that's their whole journey. So it's not such a plain story after all.
Wow. So that was really an incredible read, and also I would like to know, more about the plain story, and of course, how these characters you talked about, and could you, please share with us that what kind of, process you follow to write and developing your characters and their backstories, etc., and put them into words.
I'm always learning, always, and I don't think anyone can ever be, or at least I don't think I can ever be perfect in writing. I also think that the more one writes, it becomes like a bit of a practice, because most authors will tell you this, most of the greats will tell you this, that writing is actually 20% imagination and 80% dedication. And when I was told this by my professor at Warwick, I realized there is a lot of truth to it. So I make sure, like, you know, how you practice your voice, you do riyaz every day. Writing also kind of requires that same dedication. I try to make it a
Absolutely.
point to write something every day. And it's not because I'm forcing myself. I genuinely want to do this. I genuinely have this kind of madness, this passion to sit and write out some stories that are in my head all the time. But also, you can't write about what you don't know. At least for me, at this very nascent stage in my career, I feel I need to have some experience in what I'm writing about. So I did have
Mm.
friends who were stuck on airports in 2010. I
Okay.
did base Three Impossible Wishes on a lot of my own university experiences, because that was set in 2008, which was the year the 26/11 attacks happened in Mumbai. The global
Mm.
financial crash happened, the immigration laws were getting tighter. All that formed a huge background in my writing, and it kind of bled into the writing as well. Also, constantly reading. I love reading, and I love reading about so the works of so many different authors, because all their voices end up creating a symphony in my head, and I think that's how I can write eventually.
Wow.
I mean,
Amazing.
it's a very
I
long
think
answer.
no, that's perfect. I mean, I think that's what we would like to know about how you are managing all of these. And of course, having said that, I would love to know that how do you juggle between all these multitasking things which you do, like you write books and you're writing screenplays, and of course singing and family, and even your own personal things, etc., etc. Whatever
I
you
swear
do.
to God, Sneha, I'm not juggling anything. They all interconnected. When I'm writing a piece of work, there are songs that are born with that work, and it all translates into a movie. Like, even when my editor at HarperCollins, Swati, when I'm discussing the chapters with her, I hardly ever call them chapters. I always end up calling them scenes, because for me they
Hmm.
feel like scenes. It feels like a screenplay. For a plain story, I'd even written a song. It's called "Hating Me." And wait, I'll sing a few lines for it from it.
Please, we would love to.
So I'm sorry, I've never been good enough for you. I've been afraid since the day I met you. Always one step behind, second guessing my lines, feeling like you've had a foot out the door. So I will not stay, not play if loving you. I mean, it's a whole song, but music
Wow.
important part in this book has so many songs in it. There is this very popular song called "Put Your Head on My Shoulders," all of that, and some Hindi songs, because music will always be a very important part in my life, and it forms a big backdrop, very rich backdrop for my stories.
Wow. I would like to ask one question from my own side, about your book. And when you talk about, the chemistry between Dev and Tara, they are, you know, how they are meeting, and when, it is very nice that they are traveling together and, landing up for the same reason.
Right.
So, which is your personal favorite you can say that the most personal, or you can say the favorite scene wherein you felt that yes, after writing that scene I have accomplished that sense of satisfaction when you have it, like, oh my god, this is it really, which I really wanted to, or maybe ever tell a story about.
I'm
So
never
what
ever
would that be?
satisfied. I'm never ever satisfied. In fact, I'll probably get really excited. I'll be like, "This is the best scene I've ever written," and 2 seconds later, I'll be like, "No, no, I'm throwing this in the dustbin. It's not good," because that's always going to happen. It's always going to happen, especially to me, because I'm always second guessing my writing. But
Okay.
when you talk about chemistry between two characters, when I say I love writing rom coms, I
Hmm.
what I mean by that is I like writing rom coms which has very little romance. Why I
Okay.
say this is because I genuinely feel the best love stories are those which is somehow not connected to a Valentine's Day with kisses and balloons and cakes. No, for me, a good love story is two people who make each other the best versions of themselves. So I like Dev and Tara because they are perfect for each other. They fit. He's very reckless, and she is very subdued. They need to balance each other out because she's always very careful. She thinks everything 10 times through, which is good, but in excess it's bad. And Dave is very reckless. He's very impulsive. He doesn't think before taking an action, and he needs to control that as well. So both have some good qualities, but the negative qualities need to be balanced out by each other, and I think that's what makes a good couple. So for me, Dev and Tara's chemistry is born out of that. Even Vladimir and Arya, which is from the first book, he's a Russian boy, she's an Indian girl, and they both
Mm.
need to kind of balance out each other. In fact, the two of them don't even realize they're in love until the last page of that book.
Okay.
So that's what I find beautiful, where you kind of discover that these layers to their personality, where they kind of come to the conclusion that I don't need love to complete me. I'm fine as I am on my own, but love is this added bonus, and they discover that along the way.
Wow, that was incredible, I would say. And that's what the beauty of that, the book, when we read a book and we understand the characters and how they get along, and we also fall in love with these characters. Eventually, we feel that they are for real, and someday maybe we would land up encountering these characters. And that's how I think the viewers and also all your readers are going to find out. They are going to fall in love with these two characters. They are going to cherish every moment or instances, whatever has happened in the story, and they would kind of relate to their personal lives. And of course, I am sure everyone who is going to read your book will have a delightful experience. So, on this note, thank you once again. Please, if you want to share anything else, we would love to hear from you more. And if all our viewers who are watching us, if they have any question, please write it in the comment box, and Mol is here. So please take this
I'm sure.
opportunity and you can ask, shoot questions,
And
come
I'm,
on,
I'm
everyone.
always I'm always very thankful to readers because it always amazes me when they not only take the time out to go through my book, but they make it their own. And then they take the time out to message me and say, I love this part, this quote stayed with me. I've had people tell me, could you, give me a little personal message for my boyfriend because I want to give
Oh
to him
my
this.
God.
Yeah, and they'll create fan art and they'll create fan fiction and do such amazing things that I end up making a friend out of each and everyone who reaches out to me because I love the people who give me their time and even their critiques. Some people will just say, I wish that chapter could have been a little shorter. So I think a lot of that is very sweet because they're taking their own personal time out and giving it to me, and it means a lot to me.
So sweet. Could you please, out of curiosity, and also, we would love you to read your favorite lines from the books. Could you please
Okay,
do
sure.
that right now? Yeah, let's
Absolutely.
have it.
Okay, I'm going to first read out a little short section from. I thought this was a little funny because it would give you a little idea of Dev and Tara's characters.
Oh,
Okay, and this is the moment when their flight has been diverted. They were headed
yeah.
to Paris, and suddenly they find themselves having an emergency landing on Heathrow. A lot of planes have been diverted, so Heathrow is inundated with passengers, and they all are demanding when is the next flight out. Now, none of these flights are actually going to take off for the next 2 weeks, which they don't know. They're going to be trapped on this airport. So right now, Dave is at the head of the line, and he is absolutely screaming his head off.
Mhm.
Okay, so he
Yeah.
goes, um, I don't think you understand how important it is for me to get to Paris. I don't think you can begin to understand the seriousness of my desperate need to get to Paris. He pleads with a very composed looking staff member who's holding himself surprisingly calmly amid the angry crowd. No, sir, I don't think you understand the seriousness of a volcanic eruption, which happened in freaking Iceland, and we don't even have to go anywhere near that. I don't want to go to Iceland. Who wants to go to a place that's literally a land of ice? I want to go to Paris, Le Paris, Pari. Okay, you know what? Take me by boat. The British reached there by boat, right? Christopher Columbus and all that jazz. Staff members from the adjacent desks turned to look over at the biggest lunatic in the room. I I don't think a boat will get you there on time, sir, if you indeed need to get there by tomorrow. Right behind him is Tara, desperately waiting for her turn. But at Dave's historically inaccurate spiel, she taps him on the shoulder completely on autopilot. He whips around, and she doesn't even register his crazed expression. I don't normally do this, but and Dave groans because the only people who say this are the people who normally always do this, which is being annoying. I can't abuse right now. It can't be a good sign when the person has to take a deep breath before answering, which is the way Tara does now, just before she thunders on like a train going off the rails. Iceland isn't that icy and Greenland isn't that green. People believe it was named that way to confuse a group of Vikings who were fighting amongst themselves. But that story is a myth. Also, the British fought a lot with France, which began with the Hundred Years' War, so I doubt they were taking boats to settle down there. When you say boat, you're probably thinking of Christopher Columbus, who landed in America, not France, when he was trying to find India for all the spices to get rich. That felt good. Everyone, including the staff and Dave, turned to look at lunatic number two. What the hell was that? Was now the time to go all Bon Vita quiz contest on me? So that is Dave and Tara's characters in a nutshell. Because this is how Dave is. He wants everything done now. And this is how Tara is. She keeps correcting people. I'm going to take you to a different chapter now. But yeah, I just wanted to bring you up to speed with the kind of lunatics we're dealing with. All right. All the chapter titles are named after instructions, safety instructions that you get on board a flight. So this one's titled Cabin Lights Will Now Be Dimmed. Okay, so now in this chapter, basically what's happening is they need a place to stay. And all the airport hotels have been booked out. Most of the first class lounges are blocked. So, in trying to find a place for the night to bunk in, Tara has this brilliant idea. Why don't they stay in one of the prayer rooms? So on Heathrow, there are many multi faith prayer rooms, and they're usually very quiet spaces. So people don't naturally think of them. And it's quite a brilliant idea, and Dave agrees with it. So they go and they steal all these blankets from the Emirates counter. And Dave, who's the more action oriented one, he makes a bedside table using the blankets. He makes a makeshift bed. He creates a partition in that prayer area. So, in a weird way, he's fashioned a home for Tara and him. Tara simply flops down on her bed near the lamp in relief. Dave has fluffed them up so beautifully that she feels its comfort envelope her tired, aching limbs and fully realizes the extent of her exhaustion only now. Thank you, Dave mutters under his breath, but then shakes his head because he expects no gratitude. Suddenly, he feels a soft touch, reaching up and gingerly trying to hold his hand. Hey, hello, madam, what are you doing? He yells, startled. Tara doesn't reply. She is busy tying a knot around his finger using a thread that she seems to have pulled out magically from somewhere. Dave isn't surprised that she has a spool of thread in her hand luggage because, as organized as she is, she's probably ready to sew clothes for the whole airport. Then she takes the same thread and ties a knot on her finger. He's like, are you that afraid of being abandoned? How messed up was your childhood? See, this is what happens when kids read. All that Oliver Twist shit now really messes with your brains. She gives him a very dirty look and cuts the thread with her teeth. Yaar, Tara, is this even necessary? You're a stranger. Okay, so I've saved your butt 3 times and counting. Don't even think of running off with my luggage. I'll feel it. And she holds her hand up and tugs at his thread. Really, I really doubt your bag has anything extraordinary, Tara. Oh, bit rich coming from a guy who's in a bedrobe. At least this way, I'm already always dressed for bed. Dave, the thread stays. I'm not trusting my stuff around a total stranger. You're more worried about your stuff than about yourself? Tara suddenly looks a bit concerned at having that pointed out. Don't worry, Tara. You don't look rich or stylish enough for me to go through the trouble of lugging your crap through the airport. Excuse me, there are some pretty expensive branded things in there. Acha? Like what? Like, like this is the sort of question a thief would ask. Sharam kar, we're in a prayer room. In response, she ties an extra knot around Dave's wrist. Then she leans over to the lamp and switches it off. The darkness is diluted by the airport light pouring in through the window, and she turns her back to him. In the dim light, he spots a bottle of water that she has kept for herself on the stack of magazines, and he can't help but smile. But what takes him completely by surprise is the bottle of water she's kept for him as well. Dave envies how quickly Tara falls asleep because sleep just won't come to him. He rests his back against the wall and sits up, staring into the darkness. In it, he can see faint ripples as the room slowly melts away and turns into the dark sea at Marine Drive. A different city, a different life. He can hear the hush of the sea, taste the sweet night, and feel Anaga's warm presence. Suddenly, he can see it all him, her, sitting side by side on the parapet of Mumbai's Queen Necklace, the streetlights dotting the curved road ahead, looking like a string of pearls. He can still feel the warmth of the cup from which they shared a hot tea, sugary, spicy ginger mixed with the salty air and her heady perfume. Where did they go wrong? How did they lose this? Anaga had wished for a better life, and Dev had wished he could give it to her. They had tossed their wishes into the gentle waves and hoped the sea would make them come true. She had smiled, a smile that someone else will now wake up next to. That same smile, his Anaga, walking down the aisle away from him. He runs his hand through his hair violently, desperately wanting her image out, and he turns to Tara, and his despair fades away as soon as the light falls on her face. Tara's bun has come loose, and happy curls dance around her face, tumbling gently down her shoulders. Suddenly, she looks startlingly young. In her sleep, the deep lines on her forehead have disappeared, and her slender arms hang gracefully by her side. She isn't alert, she isn't in control, and in her vulnerability, there is a strange beauty. He now sees her, and only her. For some reason, watching Tara sleep calms Dave down, so he lies on the blankets, one arm tucked under his head. She's the beacon he's going to follow. Because he knows that he's not going to fall asleep, but at least watching her, he can begin to relax a little. Inject an empty syringe. Dave hears Tara mumble in her sleep. What was that? Tara. Tara, what are you saying? She's oblivious. She's out cold. Inject an empty syringe between his toes. Air bubble. Travel to artery. Heart attack. Perfect murder. Dave pales. He really hopes it's a plot point for her next book. It doesn't help when she starts humming the Britannia Mari ad jingle under her breath, slowly, menacingly. Yeah, this Tara is a creep. My team is awesome. And it's the next day. So they basically go to sleep there. I don't know. Do we have time? Can I read a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to carry on, yeah, we are
Shall I
loving
read
these
enough?
characters, and I would love to know what happens next when she wakes up.
She wakes up. Okay. Let me see. Um,
And in the
okay.
meantime, please, everyone who's watching, it's a really amazing opportunity wherein you can ask anything about Devantara, or even if you want to ask something to Anmol, she's here with us. So please take this opportunity, guys.
Okay.
Grab it.
So have it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a bit from the chapter where they're discussing what they plan to do once they enter the wedding. They're trying to make up their plans. Um,
Hmm.
are Dev and Tara? I think Rima has asked, are Dev and Tara portraying a real life couple? Did this actually?
Yes.
Uh, I would be very concerned if this actually happened. No, what did happen was the volcanic eruption where passengers were trapped on Heathrow for 2 weeks because none of them had, most of them, sorry, didn't have a visa where they could leave the airport. And the
Okay.
Eurostar to Paris was booked out. So a lot of people were just sitting on the airports waiting for flights to reopen. And once they did, there was such a huge backlog that it took ages for them to get back on their flight. So like,
Okay.
just imagine the kind of repercussions if someone had some kind of surgery to go to, or they couldn't buy the next ticket out or extend their stay. So medically and financially, there were huge losses, especially for the airlines. But in that,
Hmm.
there were two crazy people who wanted to gate crash a wedding, and they kept constantly feeling that there's a wedding happening without them. What are they going through? The midpoint of
Mm.
the book, there is a twist because they believe the wedding has happened, but
Okay.
suddenly the interval point, so to speak, is when they find the groom has been stuck on the same airport with them. So the wedding has still not happened. So आगे क्या
Wow.
होगा? Uh,
Amazing, I think. That's really, amazing, I would say. And it's incredible to know that, such
I'm telling you all
things
the
run
funny
into your brain. Yeah,
I'm telling
in
you all
your
the funny
brain.
bits in the book, but there are a lot of serious bits in the book because at the end of the day, it's funny. We're looking at a rom com. That's what I like about rom coms. We talk about very real issues, but we kind of package it in a very happy and nice way. Um, but the truth is, a good rom com is a
Hmm.
slice of life. This is something that Richard Curtis, who's the screenwriter of Notting Hill, has maintained that a good rom com should kind of show you the world around these two characters, what life was like in, say, 2010, 2008, 1993. So, this is why I like watching rom coms because it's a sweet way of showing you a bit about that world at that particular time.
Nice. And who is your inspiration? Like you are such a young writer, I would say, women writer. So who actually inspired you to write? Or if there is anyone whom you really, you look up to.
I look up to so many writers.
Okay.
My favorite writers happen to be also screenwriters. I love the works of P.G. Woodhouse. Uh, because he looks at the world in such a cheery way. I love the
Mhm.
works of Douglas Adams because The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is my favorite book. It's an
Okay.
insanely funny book. I love
Yeah.
Agatha Christie, Salman Rushdie, Neil Gaiman, uh, and my comfort reads I think will always be our Chitra Katha and
Oh my
Tinkle's
God.
comics. So I
I
love
think, yeah, everybody might have read this Chitrakala for sure, definitely.
Amar Chitra Katha was like the very first book I was gifted when I was a kid, and I still have my
Yeah.
very first copy. It was, I think, uh, there were some wonderful tales. I just can't remember. It was a whole set of Amar Chitra Kathas, and they were. I love the illustrations and the drawings and the way the story was so simplistically said, but it stuck.
Mm.
So that was my first introduction to reading. Okay, I'll just continue then with
Please
the reading.
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is when they're kind of discussing. This is just another funny bit from the book. They're discussing what they're going to do once they get to the wedding. She says, Dave, you're that sure I'll manage to whisk Matt away. Matt is her ex boyfriend. Obviously, you both sound like you'll get turned on by the thesaurus. Tara rolls her eyes. And once the deed is done, Dave continues, who's around to console a broken Anaga? Why, how wonderfully suave, charming, dependable ex boyfriend. Which is who? Very funny. Dave, why do you want Anaga back so bad? Because she's the woman of my dreams. Why do you want Matt back so bad? I know it's strange, isn't it? Wanting someone so much you're ready to break up their wedding. I don't normally do this, she says, staring into her coffee. नहीं नहीं, I तो gate crash weddings on the regular. मेरी तो hobby है, he remarks, and it makes her laugh because Dave always knows how to lighten the situation. Well, I guess Matt chose me when no one else did. And he's rich. He crams a whole cookie in his mouth and she shoots him a look. Come on, we can't deny that's a big plus. Tara regards him for a second and then asks quite unexpectedly, why do you think he likes Anaga? I'd rather not think about it. Okay, tell me why did you like Anaga? Again, I'd rather not think about it. This time his voice is laced with a warning. Okay, fine. How did you meet Anaga? It was a simple story, and Dave wonders where to begin. Perhaps from Papaji and his two younger brothers, who had never been privileged enough to receive an education. As soon as they were old enough to think, they were pushed into the family business. They made a pact between themselves that their children would go to school. But soon it became increasingly apparent that Papaji's only child was clever, sharper than the rest, and absorbed information easily. And so, hopes were pinned on Dev. Ambitions began to grow with each passing birthday, and no one stopped to consider how uneasy all this attention from the whole extended family might make Dev. The spotlight followed him everywhere. Even his cousins took his word for law, and Papaji started dreaming big dreams. Could his Dev perhaps be foreign educated too? He proved he certainly had the potential for it by being accepted into Harvard Business School on an early decision application. Hang on 1 second. You got into Harvard. You. What's that supposed to mean? You, he mimics her. Yeah, me. The guy you keep thinking is an idiot. You can't blame me, she mutters. So then what? I had other plans, Tara. No one asked me what I wanted to do. Yeah, because you wanted to be bankrupt. Because when we meet Dave, his business is bankrupt. He gives her a very dirty look. He's like, ये जो smart comments ना ऐसे fast fast आते हैं इसलिए Matt is with Anaga now. Fine, continue. So then he tells her how shocked he was with the high fees. I got greedy when I heard the amount. I thought for that much I can set my whole business up. The principal amount for my education was being spent just for freshman year, 45 lakhs. So he left Ludhiana with his bags packed. The whole family trooped to the Delhi airport to bid him a tearful goodbye. And instead of heading to Harvard in Boston, he changed his ticket to Mumbai and landed up in this dusty city by the sea to start his life. Okay, you rejected Harvard. Please. Why? What's so special about Harvard? Business can't be taught. You have to jump in, get burnt, and learn. Fine. What happened when Papa Ji found out the next day? Next day? Beta, Ludhiana ka hu. He didn't learn about the Kant for 4 years. Tara shocked because Dev had convinced Papa Ji that paying the university was a complicated affair. Instead, it would be better to deposit the fees in his account instead, and he would handle it. Papaji agreed because he had no reason to believe his charming son was a lying piece of shit just yet. And Dev decided to kickstart his business Matchbox. Stop. I asked you about Anaga and you're telling me about some other Dukh Bhari kahani. Both the Dukhbaris are interconnected, Tara, like a rich English tapestry. And what that Dukhbari is, you'll have to read the book to find out what happens. Why is he talking so much about Harvard and Anaga? But the point is that Dave is a bit of a jugadu. And the coolest bit about this book is that HarperCollins and my editor were very kind in allowing me to have a glossary. So we do actually have a glossary at the back of this book with all the Hindi dialogues with the English translations because I just couldn't take Dave's slang out of it. I love some of the slang that he uses. He's got such a unique way of speaking that his dialogues flowed out very naturally.
And it is, really a character wherein we would love to know more and more about it. And definitely everybody out there and who all are listening to us and who will watch it later, this video must read this book to know more about Dave and Tara, of course. And I think this is how, the beauty you are explaining of the book, that the slang you're trying to maintain, and also that characters, it is their own I would say, or I would literally, can relate to this when we talk about, the characters come from certain part of the world. So they must talk in their own personal way, or in their own, language where they come from. The culture actually reflects through that only. So that's perfectly
Absolutely.
fine. You have
I
written
love
those
it.
into
I
it.
think the way people speak says so much about their background. In the first
Absolutely.
book, in Three Impossible Wishes, it was based in a UK university, which has a very large slice of international students. And
Okay.
Sneha, the thing is, most students or most people, sorry, have a very distinct way of speaking. Like if you're from Delhi, say,
Hmm.
it's very natural for you to say the word, say, Kand or Kalesh. If you're
Yeah.
in Bombay, you'll have a very distinct slang. If you're from, say, even Karachi, they'll say that their slang word will be like "Yaar, mera meter ghoom gaya." Just small, subtle phrases like that, which just come out so innocently in conversation, tell you
It
so
comes
much.
out, naturally. It comes out automatically, and we won't even realize that, okay, this is, showing our background or portraying us from where we are.
Correct.
So that comes out
I'm fascinated.
naturally, yeah.
I'm fascinated. As a writer, for me, people studying is so important. I love talking to people across cultures because it just makes one so much richer. It's like talking to a person is like reading a book. because that person is carrying so much of their past, not just what you see in front, but that past also comes from their ancestors and generations beyond them who are probably not even alive any longer, and they're carrying
Mm.
those memories down the ages, and who you see right now is so much more, and it's like opening a book into their lives.
Audiences are saying that they really loved the way you narrated these characters, and also, uh, we would also like to know that, whose idea was it of adding a glossary to your book?
So I asked for it, and I was very
Okay.
happy that they gave me permission to do so, because I
Okay.
did try keeping all of Dave's dialogues in English. Uh,
Hmm.
but what that did was it took away a little bit of Dave's bite, because he's got a way of snapping. He's got his recklessness, his kind of impulsive nature comes out in the way he keeps talking fast and saying some things here and there, observations, and that bite goes away the minute the dialogues are translated. So
Hmm.
at one point, he's got a bit of a rhythm in the way he talks. So I just like begged and said, please, let's keep
It,
the
it
Hindi
looks
dialogue.
very natural also, not like you are making up things. It comes out to be like as real as it can be. And
That's why
of
I'm
course,
very grateful to the editor and to the publishing house for they just said, okay, let's keep a glossary then, and they let the writer be true to how the idea formed in their head. So very, very grateful to them.
nice. And Anmol, could you also share that the safety instructions as chapters? How did you think of that? The late,
Um, because
yeah.
chapter titles are such a brilliant way to kind of get create a bit of an interest. In the first book, Three Impossible, all the chapters are named after like food. They're food titles, and
Mm,
it's a bit of a riddle that you have to solve to understand what's happening in the chapter, because there she was a food writer, and therefore all the chapters are food titles because they equate to her emotions.
mm,
Here, each title is a riddle again, because when you solve it, you kind of understand what the chapter's about. Like
yeah.
there's one chapter called Store Emotional Baggage Overhead, or Be
Mm,
Careful While Opening Overhead Compartments, because that's a very emotionally turbulent chapter.
mm,
Then I think that the first chapter is called Take Off, or Cabin Crew Prepare for Takeoff. The last chapter is called Landing. Just just creating that throughout. Safety evacuation, cabin lights will now be dimmed, water landing, all these things are covered. And I think this idea was stuck in my head when I first read a book, The Curious Incident of how I've forgotten title. One second. The Curious Incident of the Cat at Midnight. I'm sorry if I got the title wrong, but each
no problem.
chapter
Yeah.
was a number. It was a prime number, because that's how it was very unique to the protagonist's character. He understood the concept of prime numbers beautifully. So for him, that's how he titled all the chapters. And I thought that was a great space to not let something like chapter titles go to waste. They utilized every inch of that book.
Mm, perfect. I think you have that passion and you know it all, that how we can pull it off and make it so interesting for your readers. And that's what the beauty is. And Mol, I think I am inspired. And today, I think who all are watching us are definitely going to be more inspired and encouraged and motivated to write something. At least we can, start with daily writings. And if you are just an amateur, and I'm sure you would like to give some advice to these, young budding writers, please, if you have something, some tricks, some
Some
tricks.
tricks. I'm always looking for advice myself. When I started copywriting, it I think this is a lesson I learned when I started working. When I was copywriting, when I looked at scripts at UTV or at Yash Raj Films, one of the things that uh, always does matter is how you utilize your time, how you manage your time and organize yourself in the day. And this was a bit of advice from Roald Dahl himself, where he said, always complete what you've started. So as someone who creates, anybody who creates any piece of work, it's very tempting to suddenly get distracted by a new idea or another
Yeah.
third idea. And what that ends up doing is you suddenly have 25 different ideas that are all incomplete. So, no matter how poor you think your current idea is, just see it till the end. Let it have a start and let it have an end, and then take a call on how good or bad it is. But reach the end first, because only then can you start editing it or making it better or seeing its true worth. And I know that's easier said than done. I know it from experience, because midway when I'm writing something, I think the idea is just not going to work and it's terrible. And why am I investing so much time in this? But you
Mm.
have to see it till the end. You have to have that commitment. And only then can you start bettering yourself as a writer, because you have to make that stage first to get to the next stage.
Yeah, I think that's a nice piece of advice you have given, that at least finish what you have started. And that's what
Because I can't
really
give any
requires a lot of hard work and also self motivation, I would say.
self motivation. See, I can't give any really cool advice because I'm starting out myself, and I'm no one to give anyone advice just yet. And I just want to grow at this point of time. But if I could help out anybody, I feel this bit of advice really held me in good stead. And I feel if anybody is looking for a way to complete their work, this is the simplest piece of advice I can share.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to share, say, and modest of you to say that you are no one. But yes, you are our role model for young women and all those women writers who are waiting for their publishing. And of course, this is
Yes.
really important. This is actually very important. And also, there is one more thing, if given a chance, for example, you have written two books, which one of these two would you written by you would like to
To be a
convert into
movie. I thought you'd ask.
a feature?
Um, I write everything that I write it like a screenplay. I think a plain story is more likely to be a movie in my head, because it's got a very clear three-act structure. It even has
Mm,
it's constantly got turning points at every act.
mhm,
Um, for me, Three Impossible Wishes, though, is a series, because I do not think that can fit into a movie, because there's so much meat in it. There are so many
mm.
characters who have very rich backgrounds. So it's so layered that I think only a series would be able to bring that world out. But a plain story, start to end, is a full masala movie. It's got songs in it, for God's sake.
Yeah, and audience has also requested if Anmol could, sing a few more lines. Can you?
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll sing a few lines from two different songs. Uh,
Perfect.
Great. This one's called Let Me Come Home. It's a song that I had written and composed 3, 4 years ago. I threw water on the sun in the evening, and the moon lies in pieces by my bedside. It still wasn't dark enough, so I picked a jar. I held it to the night sky and captured all stars. Still, I have dreams I don't like. There are nightmares I love. There must be something wrong. I am yet to be born. Let me come home where you are. Let me come home. I'm tired of being alone. Let me come. That's one. And I'll sing another one, which is Tully, which is another song I'd sung when I was 16. And God, I didn't even know what the meaning of Tully was when I sang it. So here we go. Hmm. Taka 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 takna ve, maga 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 makhna ve, धक धक दिल धड़कावे, लक लक होड़ तड़पावे, पटियाला पैग लगा के तेरी गली विच आके सब सुध बुध होश गवा के दीवाने मैं पागल मैं छल्ली हो गई मैं टल्ली मैं टल्ली हो गई मैं टल्ली हो गई तक 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 ना वे
Wow. I started to dance. I think, this was like one of the very peppy number we had.
Yes, I
Amazing.
remember.
So you made us dance. You also inspired a lot of us to write and also shared a lot of insights about your stories and a lot more. We would love to know about you. And please, everyone, um, if you have any more questions, you can definitely send it to us. But right now is the time I think we have to let go and mold, which we don't want definitely.
It's been such a
Thank
fabulous.
yeah. Please, you want to say something?
Yes, I would sincerely love to thank TOI Books, the Author Awards, to you, JK Paper, and to Vinita ma'am and to Smita ma'am, because you'll have been absolutely kind in giving me this space, this platform, and also to hear me talk for so long. Thank you.
Come on, we loved it. Would like to thank you actually for taking out time and, of course, from your busy schedule for this lovely, lovely, lovely session and
I'm never
inspiring
busy for you
so many
guys
of us.
because it's such a fabulous initiative. I'm more than grateful, and thank you very much for having me on board.
Wow. And it's likewise, we also are truly overwhelmed with this experience. Truly, we would love to also thank all of those who are watching us. And please keep checking this space for our next book reading session and, of course, for many, many interesting insights and stories. So, thank you, all of you. Thanks, everyone. Now we may all say bye bye to each other.
Bye,
Yeah.
next one.
Send your love. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Bye bye.